Hi there folks, welcome back to the Evan Andy Fishing channel and welcome back to the fourth instalment of my top 5 Grayling flies. And in truth, this one was probably one of the most tricky to come up with. Not because I wasn't sure about the pattern, this is absolutely one of my all-time favourites for Grayling. But because I kind of got this down to 2 and I didn't want to include both of them. Now the 2 flies I'm talking about are the classic pink tag and the classic red tag, tied as kind of more modern Euro style nymphs. And in truth, I really couldn't come up with anything between the 2 patterns. In the end, it actually came down to which one I'd be more likely to use at other points in the season for trout, as well as for Grayling. And actually I find the pink tag probably isn't as good a trout catcher as the red tag is, whereas I think they're both very, very even when it comes to catching Grayling. So this is going to be my take on the modern classic pink tag, on the modern classic red tag. See, I'm still confused about it now. I still can't make my mind up. In here we've got a size 12 full of mill jig force. Now I don't always tie these in 12s. I'm more likely to tie them in 14s or 16s. I've used a 12 this time just because it sits a little bit better in the vlog. Everything's a little bit clearer and a little bit bigger. There's a 4mm gold bead on there, and I kind of wrestle with this one a little bit. I sometimes tie these with a silver bead, one of them. I sometimes tie them with a gold bead, and in truth, I haven't quite decided which one I prefer the most. I think I prefer the gold with the red, but I'm pretty flexible on that one. Sometimes that one changes. If I wasn't tying this on a 12 with the 4mm bead, I'd be tying it on a 14 with either a 3.5 or a 3mm bead. Or be tying it on a 16 with a 3mm or a 2.5mm bead. And to be honest, they're all pretty effective. There isn't one favourite. They've all got different kinds of uses depending on where you want them to sit in the water column and what depth you want to fish them at. But I'm going to crack straight on. So first things first, I'm going in with Vivus 12.0 in black. So all I'm going to do is just secure that bead in place with a little bit of thread. Just lock that in there. I don't want to go overboard, but I just want it to kind of be stuck where it is. I don't want it rattling around. There we go. He says, as it loosens itself a little bit. And we'll come down the shank slightly. So first things first, we need to tie in the tag. And that's going to be Glow Bright number 4. Strictly speaking, it's only just red. It's as much orange as red. It probably looks more orange on the screen actually than it does red. But it's what I use for the tag in my red tag. So I've already got a length of this pre-cut off. Actually, it's a length that I used in the Squirmy vlog. So we've got plenty of this to go on. So all I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut 3 pieces of this roughly the same length. Try and get that on the shot. 1, 2, 3. I will say, the way I'm doing this, I would only do for the 12. If it was a smaller fly, if it was the 14 or the 16, I wouldn't use 3 sections, I'd use 2. You see there, I've got 3 sections. And what I'm going to do there is I'm going to double them up, bend them over in my hand. You can see that I've made a big loop out of those guys. Now I'm going to tie that in, not at the loop end, but at the end with the loose ends. And we'll go in with the scissors. And we just chop the ends of that off. It doesn't need to be too neat because this is going to have quite a lot of dressing up at this end anyway. Second thing we need to tie in is our body material. Now, it's a bit of a cop-out this one, because actually, in terms of form, this fly is going to be very similar to one I've already tied on the channel. I'm using Nymphs again. This one actually hasn't got the end on it, but I'm using black UV Nymphs for the body. I'm a real big fan of this stuff. It's a nice flat braid with UV woven in it. Plenty of sparkle, but in terms of making a body, it sits so flat. That's what I like about it. You can make such a thin body with this stuff that I actually prefer it to dubbing these days. It's also got the same kind of glamour as kind of the UV dubbins. And because it's got that little bit of sparkle, I find I don't need to rib it, which makes the body even thinner. I'm going to cut off a kind of 3-inch section of that, 4-inch section of that, and tie that in exactly where I've just tied in what's going to be the tag. And then we're going to go down towards the tail end and touch in turns. Now on this one, I do want these turns to be touching. I don't want any red showing through, because generally with the Nymph there'll be spaces in between the turns. And obviously with this bright red material underneath it, if you can see it, it looks a little bit weird. So nice tight turns right the way down. That'll do us. I'm going to come back up. And we'll just sit the thread up there at the moment because he's out of action. Then I'm going to wind the Nymph back up in touching turns, trying to make sure as little of that red tag material is showing through on the body as possible. I don't want too much of that there because it looks a little bit clumsy. You can see how it lays lovely and flat. There's plenty of sparkle there. But it's so much thinner than dubbing. It gives a really nice kind of 3D sparkly buggy effect. Right, that's up there. One turn in front and we can snip that off. That's the body done. Righty, so the tail or the tag, and there's a big difference. So I've cut the loop there, so all these are kind of open. Now, I saw a really interesting Facebook post about 3 or 4 months ago, where a chap said that he felt like a lot of people were tying tags too big. Felt like people were tying tags as tails rather than as a tag, which is what it is. And I kind of thought to myself, yeah, do you know what? I agree with that. I do that. So these days, I actually tie my tags quite a lot shorter than I used to. For me, that's enough. I don't want any more than that. This is supposed to be a little sighter. It's not supposed to be an entire fly. It's just a little sighter. That's that sorted. Next thing, a little bit of black dubbing. Just a small amount of black dubbing. I'm not going to use loads, because just like on the Duracell that I tied in the first vlog, this is just going to be used as a little bump up against to sit the CDC hackle. That's plenty. That's absolutely plenty. And then I'm going to let that kind of spin and do its own thing as much as it wants to. We're about to use the CDC hackle, and I'm going to use the Polish CDC in grey. Feather out the packet, pull the fibres back so they kind of stand out. Just going to chop the tip of the feather off, don't want any of those ones at the end. And I'm going to go with the Stonfo hair clip again. I really like this, I think it's a very, very clever tool. It's nice clear, it's like basically a clear bulldog clip. I'm going to catch in as many fibres as I think I'm going to need. Grab a slightly longer bladed pair of scissors. I'm just going to cut along the stem of the feather. Pull that out. And now in there I've got loads of CDC ready to go on as the hackle. I'm going to use a split thread. Now while we've been doing that, that dubbing's been spinning away. And it should make the thread slightly easier to split. There we go, we're in. So we split that thread open. In with the fibres, and jobs are good. So one turn, pull those back, another turn, pull them back. Again, at that, it looks pretty messy. Couple of turns, just lock all those fibres in place. Pull that back a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm pretty happy with that. That's what I want. Nice, buggy, spiky looking hackle. Not too many fibres either. I do think people overdo it with the fibres. And then again, a little bit more dubbing. 1, 2, 2.5 turns is plenty. And that essentially is it. I'm going to whip finish at that. Usually at this point I would dab a little bit of glue on there, but I still haven't got any glue. So we're just going to go in with a whip finish, a little bit more thread maybe. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pull that in. And that believe it or not, folks, is my version of red tag. As simple as that. I did say when I started making these videos that I tie simple flies. I don't like to overcomplicate this stuff. It doesn't need to be complicated. One thing I'm looking at there is the length of these hackle fibres. I don't like them going back over that tag. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pinch just there, just so the tag's just poking out with fingers. I'm just going to lightly pluck at those. And by doing that, they all kind of snap at different lengths. So now if I zhuzh that back out a bit. So there's plenty of hackle, plenty of movement. A nice slim fly that's going to sink really quickly. The tag isn't too big. That nymph body looks absolutely fantastic. Glistens really nicely. For me, that's much better than dubbing. And that is an absolute fish catcher, guaranteed. Trout and grayling, wherever you're in the country, whatever time of year, you're going to catch fish on that one. So get on and tie them. As I say, for me, not a lot between the red tag and the pink tag. I've only chosen the red tag in my top 5 because I think it's better at other stuff other than grayling. They are absolutely deadly for any kind of grayling or trout you're going to find anywhere in the world. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this one. I know it was super short and super simple, but that's exactly how I like my flies. If you've enjoyed it, please give it a like, share it around. If you want to try the fly, there'll be an ingredients list in the description, sorry. If you want to drop a comment in the comment section, if you've tried them or if you've got a slightly different version, that'd be great. And Yevra and I will catch up with you guys very soon. Hopefully, you get to see us put in my version of the classic red tag through its paces. Take care, folks. Bye bye.